So, and the number one thing that I believe is our destination. So a lot of people get caught up in what the direction of the wind is doing, so they will alter the course that they're paddling to suit the wind. And I believe point to point's the best, unless you know for sure. Like if you're paddling through the rip at, you know, Port Phillip Bay, and it's a ripping out, you're not going to go in the middle of the channel, right? Yeah. You're going to go to the side, and vice versa. So unless you know there's something that's significantly different going on with the whole movement of water, then point to point's usually the best. To give you an example of that, I generally start the races at the 20 beaches, and so I go after everyone else is gone, and then I sort of paddle through the slower paddlers, and as we get into Bed Gully, which is Avalon Headland, it's about 4k into the race, and it's a northeaster, so the wind's coming from that way. We want to go where Drew is, that's Collaroy. Bengali's here, we're coming out here. Guys will just paddle straight out here, so they're putting themselves in lane 8, you know, when you really want to be in lane 1 to go around this headland. And they think that by going out here, you're going to get these awesome runs back to the beach. So I believe that's wrong for 2 reasons. One, they've paddled further, probably out of the K to their course. So I generally just come through and look at all these guys out here. I'm just rubbing my hands together going, there's 200 places that I've just gained, because all these people are just out here. And by the time they work out what's going on, they're miles behind, because you're actually turning back this way, right? So they're actually almost paddling directly away from their destination. So try and just do point to point. The other reason that we want to go across the runs, and I don't believe in ever paddling out to go straight with the runs, because all you're doing is teaching yourself to get washed into the beach. So we want to learn to surf the runs, and surfing isn't catching, the ideal catching of a run is 90 degrees, speed up, and we catch the run, we drop down it. That's the initial run catching thing that we're all going to do no matter what we're doing. We're going to catch it there. But if you stay on that one, and we want to go here, that's Sorrento, this is Fremantle, that's the WA coastline. You stay on that run, you're going to end up at Northcote, right? So now you've got to get back out. So we've got to learn to come out. That's why I don't believe in ever paddling out 3k and going, oh, I'm going to have an awesome run back, because you're not teaching yourself to catch runs, you're teaching yourself to get washed into the beach. So you think of a run, it's a piece of energy. Let's say it's running roughly whatever that angle is, call it 45 degrees to the angle of the coast. If you catch that piece of energy, you're going to get a movement this way, right, towards the coast. But if you surf that piece of energy now, not only are you getting a movement towards Drew and our destination's Ant, but if you surf that, take off and cut back, now we're getting a movement towards Simon as well. So we've now got 2 movements that are going roughly in the direction that we want to go. So by taking off and surfing it, we've created I call it a double speed, right? So we've got the speed of the boat moving across the ground this way, and we've got the speed of the boat moving through the water this way. So now you've increased your speed by surfing. So, and that's the most difficult part, right? So new paddlers will get to the point of catching a run and then feel unstable and brace. So off they go, and we've all experienced that. So learning to drop is the first stage, then learning to move across it and leaning on the hull. This is what we're talking about, leaning, right? So leaning on the hull a little bit and using the boat to plane like you would a surfboard to go across the face of the wave. You run that chop out and then you swing it again into the next one. And runs generally come in packets of 3. So an oceanographer will say that the 7th wave in a group is the biggest, and then the ones either side are big, and then it goes down again, and then it comes back up again. So it's doing this the whole time. So if you can get that first one, Obviously the trough in front of that's not going to be as big as, say, the trough behind it. But if you can get that first one, now you've got 3 that you're going to get to move along the shoreline. So I always try and get the first one, A lot of guys wait and get the second one because it's got a steeper trough, because the first one creates the trough because it's bigger, and they drop into that. So yeah, so start thinking about that. So like when I do a downwind, I'm always like straight down, and then I learn to come out, learn to surf my way out. And yesterday was a good day to do that because the wind had some east in it. So you surf those little chops out. Quite often you'll notice that the little chops are coming off the beach and the bigger ones are going towards the beach. So you use that little bit of speed going out to swing into the ones going in. So destinations, number one. So if you're doing a race that's, you can't actually see the destination, then we use those waypoints along the way. So Bengali Head, Longreef Point, if you're going Palm Beach to Manly in Sydney, Urquhart's Bluff, Point Addis. The next thing you'd see would be Torquay Point, if you're going to Fishers or something at Torquay. So they're your waypoints, and I believe just getting as close as you possibly can to them without obviously running aground or whatever. So always try and limit the extra distance you're doing, and don't necessarily believe that going out will give you the best advantage of going in. So destination's number one. Number two is the quadrant, call it the quadrant, right? So everything in run catching, purely run catching, is happening here. So you never need to do this. It's all going on here. If the wind's coming over your right shoulder, it's a little bit like this. If it's over your left shoulder, it's a little bit like this. So everything's going on in this range here. The runs develop with you or in front of you or to the side of you. So anything that's different to the median plane of the ocean is potentially something we can catch. And it's not necessarily always wind. It could be backwash, it could be a boat wash, it could be swell hitting a shallow point. So there's numerous things that create the ability to catch something. So all we need, like a snow skier, all we need to do is find something that's going to make our nose point down. And that's not always the wind. So don't be one-dimensional when you're catching runs, especially along a beach. I know the WA coastline, once you get to Swanbourne, the waves generally hit the beach and come off in a backwash that heads out that way. So the angle of refraction, you know, whatever that stupid thing is, you know, equals the angle of reflection. So you get those things as well. The cliffs around Sydney are classic. You can have a windless day or a bit of residue from the day before. You catch the runs in towards the cliff, catch the backwash out. And people always say to me, oh, I like to be a long way off the cliff, right? Okay, so what happens is when the body of water comes in on the cliff, it bounces back out like this, and as it gets further out, it separates. And it becomes shitty and messy. If you're right on it, you run it in, you get that first one that's heading towards Simon, you get that first one that's going, and you might get the second and third one. If you're out here, you're not going to get any of them. They just dissipate and they create shitty water. So cliff running, I'm always a big fan of being right on it. So we've got our destination, we've got our quadrant. So, and start thinking about, oh gee, it's a bit higher over there. So obviously if something's high, there's going to be something low below it, and the low stuff's the stuff we're going to go into. So we try and get ourselves over there quickly. And we were talking yesterday about stopping paddling earlier. If we stop paddling earlier, we now have the ability to get ourselves over there really quickly, or get ourselves over there depending on which way we need to go quickly. And then the last thing that I like to talk about is the situational awareness. If you're out by yourself, smoking downwind, having a ball, and there's 200 people in this race and you don't see anyone, good chance you're doing the wrong thing, right? So always, it only takes a second. Just put your paddle down and just have a look, and you go, oh fuck, they're a kilometre that way. You know, and this year's Doctor was a classic. We had local guys outside the reef, and the reef's 2.5k off Sorrento. And because the wind had a fair bit of south in it, they just kept running, and they were going to here. You know, they were heading up here. So they didn't take the opportunity to turn in. So they weren't looking. We have a big boat on the course, the Silverado, that you can actually see from 5k away. So they just weren't taking the time to make the observation at there's other stuff going on, looking at the shoreline going, oh shit, is that Observation City?
Don't they
Yeah,
have
I'm
to
a
go
long way
around the
past.
cardinal marker?
What's that?
Didn't they have to go around the cardinal marker?
No, they'd already missed it.
Yeah.
They were well outside it.
Yeah.
But the tracking was really, really good that we had this year. So I didn't do the race. I was on Muzz's boat, and I was just watching and directing the safety boats to them.
Yeah, right.
But they were. So if that's the Centaur marker, they were maybe even a K west of it.
Right.
Wow.
A long way out. Yeah. There was about 5 or 6 that would have been that far out.
No names.
So they're the 3 things, just destination, always think about your destination, even if it's a clear destination, just have a look. The runs you're catching may not be taking you where you want to go, so just work out how you're going to cut back or whatever you're going to do to get yourself more on the line. And just to back that up, you know, when you are running a line from, say, Frio to Sorrento, you're never sort of on that line, you're either side of it constantly, backwards and forwards across it, so just be aware of that. Then the quadrant, think about what's going on here. Any movements that are different to the normal ocean are potential things for us to catch. And then just situational awareness, what's going on around you with the other guys. And the people are generally the best things to use as a guide, but also the wind. Quite often once the wind's got its direction, it's going to stay pretty much in that same. So it's on your right shoulder and you can feel it on your right ear. Then you know that you want to keep that, and then suddenly you're like this and you're feeling it on your left ear. One of 2 things has happened. You're either going the wrong way or the wind's changed. So just have a look at the shoreline or the people around you, see what they're doing. And Reese would have talked about catching a run. So the one thing about catching runs is making sure that you're as 90 degrees to it as you can and you increase your speed. The one thing we've all got up our sleeve, no matter how much paddling we've done, is rating. And rating will enable you to catch runs. So don't always go to technique, go to rating and go to everything you need to do to catch a run. You look at a surfer, he's not going to think about what his elbows are doing as he's paddling into a wave, right? He's going to do kicking and bouncing and whatever he can to get into a wave. We're the same. I do anything I possibly can to catch a wave, no matter how much it hurts. Your stroke might be that long, whatever it is. And sometimes when I go back to rating, if you're rating, you have the ability to turn better because you've got little moments of speed, and you know speed helps the turn, right? So if you haven't got speed on your boat, you can't turn. So you need speed. Little moments of speed that enable you to turn quicker. So just be aware of that as well. Any cues?
Then how often do you use the paddle to help you steer?
Quite often,
like,
if
you know,
it's a
if you
big
need
run,
to-
I'll lean onto it.
But like when you're paddling and you want it to cut right, do you
Yeah,
take
I
a
might do
slightly
a wide
wider
stroke.
one just to kind
Yeah.
of flick it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was
And it's a
noticing that.
combo of things, right? It's a lean, a pedal, and a turn, but sometimes it's just yesterday, because the runs were so good,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes you could just do that.
Yeah.
Just have
And it was
5
just
degree
enough
turn
to
on
flick.
the nose,
Yeah.
and you're
I
around.
was doing that once.
But yeah, anything you can do to catch the run is important, because looking pretty is going to gain you distance and speed in the flat, but it does nothing for you in the ocean, in the wild water. So
Why are you all looking at me? Pretty gets the girls home.
Fabio of kayaking. Fabio.
Fabio of kayak.
And I, you know, to give you an example, like I've raced Greg Barton, who's one of the best paddlers ever, many times, and I've just watched him trying to paddle up the back of runs, right? Just grinding and.
Imagine what he
I'm
says
sitting
about
there
you,
like this.
Dino.
What's that?
Imagine what he says about you. I go paddle up to Dino. He's fucking everywhere.
And Busto, who won like 10 world marathon kayak titles, I've raced him as well, and just watching him, you know, way better paddler than I would ever be, or was, or whatever, and he just like this, my nose is like this, half an hour he's out the back door. So anything else, any other questions at all? If you can just remember those, just think back to those 3 things: where you're headed, what the water's doing around you, and what everyone else is doing, and then you're sweet. You know, you're generally going to be all right. Beauty.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
So 5